conspiracy to commit murder.
All right, y'all, you're locked in here to the Midwest Mayhem.
I still always want to show up, and that's just, I have not lost any passion for the job.
Welcome to the Midwest Mayhem Podcast with your host Tyler and Lockie. This is where small town stories, wild headlines, and real conversations come together. We also shine a light on first responders, veterans, and on mental health. Because every voice deserves to be heard. This is the Midwest Mayhem Podcast.
I've been an open book about mental health.
From a federal prison.
Your fake leader hiding behind the title.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Midwest Mayhem Podcast. I am your host, Tyler, and this is episode 14, and I'm sitting here, not in studio. I'm actually at Checkpoint Coffee and Canteen right here in Potosi. I'm sitting here with a gentleman named Adam Wells, a very decorated gentleman. He's done a lot in his life, and he has given a lot to the community and served quite a bit. So I'm very excited to be here. Unfortunately, Lockie, we had a scheduling issue, and Lockie could not be here tonight. She had a previous engagement. So, Lockie, just know that we miss you, and it's going to be really hard to do this without you because you're my sidekick. But, again, I'm here in Checkpoint Coffee and Canteen. If you haven't been to this place, I tell you what, they have the most amazing decorations, crowd let out, very comfortable place to come sit. And I am so glad to be here. Adam, thank you so much for being here with me, man. And I'm going to kind of go read a little bit about you. How's that sound?
Go ahead.
So Adam is a longtime Missouri law enforcement officer. He was a military police staff sergeant with the Missouri Army National Guard, instructor with the U.S. Military Police School. He's been a counselor. He's currently a pastor. Is that right?
Associate pastor, yes.
Okay. So he's an associate pastor, a business owner here at Checkpoint Coffee Canteen. And what's the name of your other business?
Criminal Justice Services.
There we go. That's a mouthful. So he owns a couple businesses with his wonderful wife, who is not here with us either, but she is fantastic. I've talked to her a couple times, and he has just committed his life to serving other people in every possible way. And thank you for your service, and thank you for being here with me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So we're going to kind of get into who you are, and we're going to learn a little bit about you. So for those meeting you for the first time and listening in, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where your story begins?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I am a Christian. I was raised Christian, had a few bad years, you know, it happens, but I was born and raised in Farmington, Missouri. I've got 3 kids, 2 bonus kids, so my wife and I have 5 total. One of them's getting ready to make me a grandfather, so that's coming up very shortly.
Well, congratulations.
I've been in law enforcement about 24 years. I spent 12 years with St. Francis County Sheriff's Department. I worked part-time during that with Park Hills PD for about 6 years. And I've been with Deloge Police Department. I'm now reserve detective with them for going on 24 years. I've been with them. 8 years with the Army National Guard, and got to do a few different things with them, and got out, started some contract work. I spent 8 months in Arizona. I spent 3 months in California, ended up back in Fort Leonard Wood, and working with the Behavioral Science Division for the Military Police School. I had worked on and off with Criminal Justice Services, teaching some classes and stuff since 2012 or so. And a few years ago, my wife and I decided to buy it over, take it over from my father, who started it. And we've been running Criminal Justice Services for a few years, worked with a lot of court systems, about 14 counties or so. And then we started Checkpoint Coffee Canteen in July of this year.
That is a really, really neat plot there, man. You sounds like you've done just about a little bit of everything, huh?
I've tried.
Yeah. Well, it never hurts to try everything at least once, huh? So what first pulled you into the criminal justice and law enforcement? What just intrigued you to get into it?
Well, simply put, my father. My father was a law enforcement officer and now the director of 911 for St. John and St. Francis and Perry and Iron County, Alan Wells. And kind of grew up in that realm, grew up at the old jail, hanging out with a lot of the good old boys, and just kind of decided early that's the path that I wanted to take. I wanted to get into law enforcement. I'd always said I wanted to do something federal, and I started working for the Sheriff's Department and said, this is me. And Unfortunately, that was a blessing, but also a downfall, which we'll get into later.
Yeah.
Kind of got stuck.
Yeah. I mean, I don't guess there's any other way to put it now, is there? That's really neat, and I'm really glad you got to serve right here where we live. I mean, right now we're in Washington County, but St. Francis County is actually the county I live in now. I just moved. I'm really glad that you were right here close to home. That's a really big thing to me because I was a local volunteer fireman. So thank you again for that many years with one department. These days, you don't see a lot of law enforcement officers staying at the same department for long periods of time.
No, and fortunately, some of the guys I work with at Deloge PD have been there for a long time. Sean Roney and Dustin Cash, and the three of us all went through the police academy together too. And
yeah,
they've been very dedicated to it. And I would say they're a big reason I've stuck around there and done what I can.
Having good friends in the job you do makes a whole lot of difference.
Absolutely.
So you've earned your bachelor's, your master's, and now you're working toward your doctorate. What motivated you to take your education thus far?
So I was happy with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And when I was working in Fort Leonard Wood, we had a couple of people that were coming in and teaching classes with us or doing seminars that we sat in on. And that's where I was introduced to Dr. Eric Hickey. His specialty is forensic psychology. He was on the Unit Bomber Task Force. He studies serial killers and different types of what we consider the dark side of psychology, and really kind of got me interested into that realm. I started finding interest in police psychology, but also kind of that dark side, the more gruesome side of criminal behavior that many people don't want to talk about. And I just found an interest in it. And I did my master's degree, and I called him up. I said, "Hey, I'm done." He's like, "No, you're not." And I kept going forward, and I've had to take a lot of leave of absences due to illness or injury or just time, because we keep so busy that I haven't had the time to focus on the school that I need. So hopefully we'll get that wrapped up soon.
Well, awesome, man. That's very very intriguing, to say the least. That's quite a bit of education, and you got your hands full with not only Checkpoint Coffee and Canteen, but criminal justice services, and a whole lot more. You're a husband, getting ready to be a grandpa, so you're looking at a whole lot ahead of yourself. I do want to get into a little bit of your law enforcement career. You served as a commissioned law enforcement officer in Missouri for over 20 years. Walk us through what that journey has looked like.
So obviously I'm not anywhere close to the same person that I was when I started. There's a transition that happens over time. And when I started, I was full of ambition, full of excitement. Over time, those things tend to fade, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get disgruntled with the work, you kind of get burnt out. You start seeing the same people over and over and over. You start to question, is what I'm doing making a difference? If you're not making a difference, then why are you doing what you're doing? And it causes some internal conflict for some people, and I was one of them. I started making a lot of bad decisions, started struggling a bit, became careless and reckless in my behaviors. Although I started off with that grand desire to make a difference and serve the world and change the world, save it, I later became more cynical toward the world around me. And it took a while to kind of build that back. And I'll say I've probably made the most growth in that in the last 5-7 years. In the last 10 years is I started recognizing some things and that I needed to change. I was already working on some change. And, once you go through the academy and you get on the road, you get working, you feel this sense of pride and what you're doing. And after a while, it just fades away and you got to spark that light again. My father, when I started in law enforcement, he told me something I'll never forget, although I let it slide for a while, which is the day that you go to work and you don't learn something new is the day to find a new line of work.
And we say that in a little bit of a different way here on the podcast. If you listen to a couple of our episodes, we've said that we feel the same way with burnout. Yep. Burnout, once you've hit it and you've recognized it, please leave, because you are not only a danger to yourself, your coworkers,
Yep.
and other people, and first responder services and things like that. That is a place you have no room for error. You know what I mean? So, yeah, we completely agree with you on that one.
Same thing there.
So what areas of police work did you feel most connected to or passionate about?
So when I was working patrols, domestic violence type calls were always more adrenaline pumping. I found more interest in. I later found out I did not know as much about domestic violence as I thought I did.
Mm-hmm.
Our training at the time wasn't the most accurate, I'll say. And I became, over time, more passionate about those types of calls as I learned more about them. And of course, anytime that you deal with any type of elder abuse, child abuse, anything like that, those are always going to hold more passion. They're going to weigh on the heart more, which again, the more passionate you are about something, the more time and the more effort you'll devote to it, but also the more likely you are to carry it home, which then in turn causes problems. I will say that when I started to learn a little bit more about why victims don't leave their situations and different situations that may trigger the abuse that occurs, I started to kind of feel more passionate about it and understand it more than just somebody who refuses to leave. And I had the wrong mindset for a long time about what domestic violence really was. And yeah, as I'll mention later, when I went through some training that really opened my eyes, I started to question whether or not I had handled cases correctly. And certain cases came to mind that I don't feel I did justice to. So obviously that's going to spark more passion.
Yeah, so a little bit of second guessing, and sometimes and even in the fire service, you said back, like when I would come back from a call and I would make a decision if I was in charge of a scene or something. You always wonder, man, what could I have done different? How could I have handled that different? Did me doing this cause these three effects? It does follow you home, and there's no way to stop it. So you've worked with major crime scenes, domestic violence cases, child abuse investigations, and more. What skills or experiences stood out most to you over the years?
So the two things that spark the most in my mind as far as the skill set needed, one is attention to detail. The ability to really look at the details, consider what's going on, whether you're looking at evidence, whether you're looking at somebody's subtle cues in their body language, attention to detail is very, very important. And then also what's behind that, what sparked that change in character, what created that piece of evidence. The second thing I would say is connection. Being able to talk to people, whether it be an interview or an interrogation setting, being able to just connect with them, talk with them, regardless of the topic, which can be challenging, right? If you have somebody who's been an offender against a child, and now you're trying to talk to them and build connection, relate with them, it's really difficult because then, that kind of wears on you.
Yeah.
But in the same sense, that's how you build connection, and that's how you get people to communicate with you honestly. And the more that somebody trusts you, the more they feel comfortable with you, the more they're going to be honest, or the more they're going to tell you.
Now, do you feel that connection, like if you were interrogating somebody, do you feel like that would bring out a little bit more of what you're looking for, having a connection with them instead of treating them differently?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a hidden fact that sometimes building that connection is the way to get them to open up about things they've done. However, that you might have to say things that kind of conflict with your own morals and values in order to get them to feel.
Yeah.
And so
that was a question I had on my own, because you see it on TV all the time, and I of course, just like firefighting, you don't believe and being a law enforcement officer, I can only imagine some of the things you see on TV, and you're like, okay, yeah, we don't do that. Please stop doing that.
Exactly.
My wife hates watching Chicago Fire with me or any other firefighting show, because I'm like, yeah, no, they don't do that. They don't do that. They don't do that. So
One of my biggest pet peeves in cop shows is when they clear an entire building and they get to the last door, and then they put a round in their a bullet in their chamber, or in their shotgun or the pistol. And I'm like, so you just cleared an entire building without one?
Yeah. What happens?
They get to the last door and they're like, oh my gosh.
What happens if somebody runs across you there? Yeah. Sometimes I really think TV directors should probably go take a ride on a fire truck or a cop car if you're going to write that kind of show.
Absolutely.
However, before we get sidetracked, you also served as a post-journalist instructor, firearms instructor, patrol rifle instructor, taser instructor, and close quarter tactics instructor. That is a lot of instructor. What do you enjoy most about training other officers?
So I'd say sharing lessons learned and experiences that I've been through. Hopefully people don't make some of the same mistakes I have in different situations, and I'm able to use situations where I've put myself in vulnerable positions, and with shootings and stuff, and kind of like, hey, this is what you do, right? Like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, that's not what I did because I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
I did this because I wasn't thinking. I allowed emotions to take over or something like that. I had the adrenaline pump and fight or flight kicked in, and I put myself in vulnerable situations or whatever. So a lot of times it's being able to just relay that lesson learned to them. Whether it be shooting tips, clearing houses, recognizing the difference in mental health and substance abuse or co-occurring disorders, or even dealing with their own mental health issues. So when you look at the statistics, you look at the cause of death, cause of line of duty death for law enforcement officers, and you look at the statistics for law enforcement suicide. An officer is far more likely to die by their own hand than they are at the hand of someone else.
That's terrible.
Absolutely. And that is why we do a lot of what we do, is to be able to reach out not just to first responders and not just to veterans, but just our public in general, and hopefully try to reduce some of the overdose rates and some of the suicide rates, and just being available to talk to people. I don't know how many times with criminal justice services we've sat up and 1 o'clock in the morning we have clients call, and we'll sit up with them and talk to them and try to talk them out of a suicidal incident. My wife that you've met before, Christy, she's a former behavioral health nurse.
Oh wow.
So it's just something that we find a lot of passion in. And I'll get into later probably a little bit more about that. But, when you can relay that, the importance of the mental health side yourself, as well as some of these other things, it's fun to go to the range and shoot.
Yeah.
But what happens after you have to use that gun on a person? What are the psychological things that occur? What are the physiological things that occur in a person? And be able to understand those. Just like we talked earlier with the previous podcast, sometimes it's just normalizing and recognizing things that are going to occur or that will occur because they're abnormal situations that we're in. So it's normal responses to abnormal situations.
Wow, that's very deep. That's another reason why we started the Voices of Valor series here on the podcast. The statistics for first responder suicide rates are ungodly. Yeah. They're uncalled for. There's not enough support directly sitting right here in our area. So again, Lockie and I are not therapists. We don't claim to be. We just are people you can come talk to that have done the job just like you. So
and that's what people need a lot of times.
Absolutely. I can tell you right now, I do better when I go and talk to a friend of mine who's been in the fire service for an hour versus going and sitting in a therapy office for 3 hours. People have their different coping mechanisms, and that's okay. If therapy works for you, great. If not, well, that's okay too.
Yep.
So I want to get into a little bit of your military service and your Army National Guard. You've worn so many hats. I kudos to you, because I just can't imagine doing everything you've done. I was really intrigued to come do this episode with you after reading some of what you've shared with me. So you've served 8 years with the Missouri Army National Guard as a military police staff sergeant. What was that experience like?
So for those that know military, I started off as private first class and worked my way up to staff sergeant, but I really enjoyed it. If it were not for physical limitations and disabilities, I would probably still be in it.
Oh, wow.
If it weren't for back injuries and shoulder injuries and hand injuries, there's a lot of things that I really miss about it that I would do to this day. And a lot of it is serving the community. With the National Guard, obviously we have our deployments overseas and stuff, but we also have our state emergency duties and going down assisting during ice storms and tornadoes. Being able to support the community in that manner is very, very rewarding. I would say you have to recognize when the military service is for, I'll say, the young people. There's definitely a need for that wisdom and stuff like that for those that are physically able. And for me, I just recognized that it was time for me to get out. And
that's a good one.
It was time to give it up. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well here in a little bit. But being able to provide that service and build true friends. I mean, friends that I could rely on, friends that I could call 20 years from now and ask them for a favor, and they're going to be there for me. I mean,
a brotherhood, if you would.
Yes, a brotherhood that I will say runs deeper even than a lot of our first responder brotherhood. And you know how strong that is.
Oh, yeah. That's incredible. If it runs deeper than responders and firehouses, I tell you what,
Yes.
that's pretty deep. Episode, I don't remember the exact episode number because we've done quite a few so far. But Tommy Hill was also a guest on our podcast. Tommy is a very good friend of mine. He's been a great friend of mine for quite a few years now. We served in the fire service together. And he's like my go-to. So what I understand when I say this, that brotherhood is just unbreakable. And that is something Tommy and I will always have. And I'm sure you have yours as well.
Yep.
So you are part of Show Me Protection 2 in Ferguson and St. Louis. Can you share what your role was during that mission?
Yeah. So at the time I was acting platoon sergeant. My duties included more assigning and checking in on multiple different teams that were assigned to static, stationary positions or roving positions, making sure they had what they need. I had a great mentoring staff prior to that really opened my eyes to certain aspects. And, one of my first sergeants, First Sergeant Cunningham, once told me, he said, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. He said, never set people up for failure. Set them up for success. Let them choose whether they succeed or fail. And I've lived by that. I live by that with criminal justice services, the clients we serve, and the people here, the staff here. I tried to give people all the tools necessary for success and let them choose what they do with it. And that's how we kind of ran a lot of our military missions, was we give people the opportunity to prove themselves. And our guys proved themselves above and beyond. That, of course, Show Me Protection was the rights there in Ferguson. And, we visited the shield lines and the roving patrols and the police departments and hospitals where we had static positions. And both my job was just make sure they had what they needed to do theirs. And they excelled in that tremendously. And I couldn't be more happy and more proud of the guys that we had there.
That is fantastic. See, I didn't know that. Obviously, it's not something you hear on the news. You have that kind of stuff going on up there.
Yeah.
But that's great. Kudos to you for doing that. You also spent time in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Thank you again. Thank you so much for your service over there. What did you take away from that deployment? Because I know that the Afghanistan era was very touchy.
It was very touchy, and I'll say that without saying too much, the news was not always the most accurate.
Yeah. We see that a lot of times, even in the first responder field.
Absolutely. There were certain things I really took away, certain lessons learned, certain experiences, and certain friendship bonds that are going to be there forever. There's been some of those bonds that, due to poor decisions, I've ruined, and I'm tried to earn those back. But our mission was primarily internment resettlement. So we housed and guarded the inmates per se that were, and trying to keep it in terminology.
Yeah.
The inmates that were incarcerated, we were watching, and so not what you would consider the most glorifying or exciting position, but we dealt with a lot of riots within the cells. We dealt with a lot of fecal matter and urine and stuff thrown on us on a regular basis. And,
oh man, that's terrible.
Not the most exciting thing to come home and talk about. So
yeah, and I can imagine. Again, I knew that was a touchy subject for some. It's you guys didn't get the credit I feel that you deserved. So again, I say thank you for everything you did over there. My uncle actually served in Afghanistan in the Army. So again, thank you so much for everything you guys had to tolerate over there. You guys don't get the credit that you deserve. So I really want to get into your U.S. Army Military Police School and instructor work a lot. When I was making this the script here for me to go off of, this is where I probably spent the most time. Some of the stuff is just really neat, and I can't wait to get into it. So you spent 5 years as a training instructor for the Behavioral Sciences Education Training Division at the U.S. Army Military Police School. How did that opportunity come about?
So the only way I can put it is by mere design. I had at that point decided I was burnt out, and this is what I was talking about earlier. I was not making good decisions. I was not making healthy decisions. I had chose to not re-enlist with the National Guard after my 8 years there. I left law enforcement full time, ended up in Arizona for 8 months, ended up in California for 3 months doing some different contract jobs. My California contract was coming to an end, and I get a phone call from a guy that I met that showed me protection in Ferguson.
Oh, wow.
He was another soldier. We were different units, and we didn't, or different platoons. We had not ever met each other prior to that day up there that we ran across each other. And he had heard me talking to another soldier. They were having some issues with some stuff. Heard me talk to him, and he just came up and he's like, "Hey, I heard you talking to this guy. What's your story?" So we got talking, and didn't really think a lot about it. Name was Sergeant Kenny Santee, and didn't really think a whole lot about it. We talked, great guy, and we went about our way. So he calls me up when I'm in California, and he says, "Hey, I work for the U.S. Army as a civilian. I'm in the Behavioral Science Education Training Division, the Military Police School." He said, "Would you be interested in the job teaching domestic violence investigations?" And I was like, yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, it's neat.
So I did it on over the phone interview with the boss. I got a direct hire. So there was a little bit of a period where they had to get everything done, paperwork stuff.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Fort Leonard Wood, and I spent 5 years there. And I taught the several different programs, and I know you know some of that a little bit, but primarily in domestic violence investigation, strangulation. I was on the strangulation investigation team that helped develop that course and then teach it. Critical incident peer support and child abuse protection and sexual assault or special victims capabilities course, and really started kind of getting involved with a lot of those courses, co-teaching in some of those, and role playing and stuff like that. And we traveled primarily with domestic violence. We traveled all over the world, all over the U.S., continental U.S., Alaska, Hawaii, South Korea, and Japan, Italy, and Germany. And got to meet a lot of the local nationals, police officers in those places, and our troops in various places. Although I was employed by the Army, we worked with any branch of service.
Wow.
So we went to Marine Corps bases and different places. We're the only ones that were teaching that specific of a course. So
wow,
it was incredible.
That's when I read that, I was like, all right, I really got to form this question somehow, some way, because I was really, really curious. So not only have you done a lot, you've been a lot of places.
I have.
South Korea and Japan. That sounds very interesting for sure. So you taught domestic violence intervention and assisted with strangulation response, as you just said, and the special victim courses. What was it like teaching those subjects? Because those are some pretty heavy subjects.
So, and I'm glad you said that, because that's what I'm going to be talking about. So, when you're talking to somebody and you're teaching them how to shoot a gun, how to clear a room, how to move here, move there, it's rewarding. It's fun. You know, there's excitement in it. They're learning those technical and tactical skills that help them become better at what they do. This was far different than I expected. It was far different than, you know, when I went into it, that my mind was going to. It's different than anything I'd ever done. It was still rewarding when they took that information and they engaged in it and started including that in their day-to-day operations stuff and actually learned from it. But when you're talking about very heavy topics, you're showing pictures and videos of men, of women, of children being abused,
Wow.
of being killed, and listening to 911 calls and stuff. It is very, very heavy. I had a student one time, at one point in time, I had no emotion. I didn't care.
You're like a machine.
Yeah. And I have, as I've increased my faith, I have found myself becoming more emotional.
Yeah.
And I had a student ask me one time, and they said, "How do you make it through this entire week without crying?" I said, "That's easy. I watched sad videos the night before and cried my eyes out, so I don't have any water left."
There you go.
That way I keep a straight face. And it worked for me. But we had moments of fun. We had moments of humor and stuff like that. But overall, they were pretty heavy, depressing types of discussions that we had, of statistics that we included. But I learned also a great deal from it. And it was, you know, before I started teaching the class, I had to take it. And I'm sitting there going, I don't know if I've ever handled a domestic violence case correctly at this point.
Yeah.
Because, as you know, same with fire and law enforcement, EMS, dispatch, somebody asks you, "Hey, what do you remember the most?" You don't remember the good things.
No, it's always the bad.
You remember the bad first. And so automatically my brain starts going to all these cases that I'm like, I don't know if I handled them correct. So it was a really, really big learning experience for me, and started adapting the way I did things and the way I looked at things and the way I handled things.
Wow. Again, that is a very heavy subject to talk about. I can't, again, kudos to you, because I couldn't sit and not only look at and have to learn the subject you're teaching, but also have to sit and teach it. So again, kudos to you, not necessarily for you being emotionalist, but for you being able to teach and prepare other future officers and all that. So again, that was another thing I was really interested in, although I would never want to teach it or see it because it just breaks my heart. I'm very emotional myself, so don't feel bad. You regularly taught officers about trauma, the neurobiology of trauma, child trauma, offender behavior, vulnerable populations, and the officer safety. What do you believe is most important for officers to understand from these lessons?
I would say at the core of each and every one of those, it's important for officers to understand behavior is often a survival response. It's not a moral failure, and recognizing that can save lives, including their own. We often misperceive what we're seeing because we assume it's one thing. But we can remain with an open perspective, an open mind of this could be this. It helps us to change how we respond to those situations. So you have two types of responding. You have a reaction and a response. A reaction is something that happens in your midbrain, that reptilian reactionary part of the brain, survival, fight or flight reflexes. Your prefrontal cortex, which is where you do your rational, logical decision-making, thought processing, that's where a response happens. When we as first responders, as military, can learn to change from reacting to situations to responding to situations, we handle them much better. And we see less use of force. We see more appropriate resources given to people. we have to understand that what we're seeing is not always, I'll say, transcribed correctly in our own brain.
Yeah.
So we have to have a good understanding of the brain.
That's that is. I'm really glad that we were able to talk about that, because I was really curious how those were separate from each other. I kind of done a little bit of looking into what all that is, because being a volunteer fireman, that you don't sit through an anatomy course, you don't sit through all this other stuff to learn about the human body and things you probably should. So again, for those listening to this, keep that in mind. For all my local first responder friends, firefighters, EMS, police, please keep that in mind. I feel like that is a very important thing that you keep in your brain and learn how to do, as you said. So you also trained in multiple interview and interrogation programs, practical, I'm going to say this wrong, I'm sure, kinesis?
Close enough.
Okay. So practical kinesis, PEACE, PEACE, trauma-informed interviewing. What did those courses add to your approach?
So for example, the PEACE model actually came out of Scotland Yard. So we had a couple guys from London that came over.
And that's in London, correct?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And a couple guys from California were working on micro-expressions, stuff like that. Practical kinetic, you're looking at body language, facial expressions, different things. And it's not that, oh, this person's sitting with their arms closed, they're lying. Well, they could just be cold. But you're looking for patterns of behavior and stuff. And that started to change the way I looked at interview interrogations and looking at what are they saying? Are they changing terminology? What's their body language patterns like? And I started looking for these patterns. I started looking for these changes. I've never been a great interviewer. I've never been a great interrogator. I can get enough to get by, but that's about it. My father, great at it. I'm not. I know my strengths and weaknesses. Where my strength comes in is watching an interview take place and providing that person with input. Hey, check this. I tend to focus more on the attention to detail of certain things that were said, certain terminologies that they changed. So I excel more in observing and giving feedback than I do actually any type of interview interrogation. So I always try to improve on my ability, and especially with trauma-informed interviewing, that's really breaking down and understanding what somebody has been through. And the formats used in those, in just about any of these, many of them can be used on victims. For example, trauma-informed interviewing. That is specifically used on victims. Then you have your I guess I can't even think of that. I never took that one. There's the read technique, which is more geared towards suspects. And I didn't take that one, but the PEACE model is one that can be used on both suspects and victims, and elements of the practical kinesis as well. Looking at the body language and being able to talk to people. At the basis of it, though, every single one of them, the foundation is connected. Being able to relate. If you're not able to connect, if you're not able to relate with the person, you're not going to excel in that interview or that interrogation. You have to be able to communicate and build that rapport and that connection with them.
Now, do you feel, with you working down here in our area for so long with the San Francisco County Sheriff's Department, do you feel that you had the understanding of our community and how the people around here function?
Oh, absolutely. I have a good understanding of how many of them function and how many of them think, which is probably what gets in the way of my interviewing, because I already know. So if I already know something, I tend to want to prove I'm right.
Yeah.
Instead of just shut up and let them talk. I struggle with that. I like to talk. So sometimes I have a hard time just stepping back and easing into it. I can be a little pushy sometimes.
Well, I tell you what, sometimes I feel that way when I'm doing podcast episodes, and I'm sure Locke will probably tell you that. But that's just something. Do you feel like, from another question that isn't scripted here, do you feel that you being from this area gave you more of an advantage than officers coming from a different area?
I would say there's pros and cons of each. Officers from outside the area are going to bring different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
There is absolutely no harm in opening up your mind to different perspectives. They're going to bring in different elements of training, different ways of doing things. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, also being local, you know the people more. You know how to communicate with them better. You know how to build that rapport with them better.
Yeah.
An officer from even St. Louis is going to struggle with some guy from the rural area.
Yeah.
And be able to communicate with them because you have a communication barrier. You have an understanding barrier. When you have somebody who is in the rural, who is local, they're able to pick up on that a little easier and adapt, I'll say. Whenever I was teaching elements of interview interrogation, I always said, you got to be a good actor.
Yeah.
And you have to adjust to people's communication styles. If they're loud, speak a little louder. If they're quiet, they don't make eye contact, limit your eye contact, soften your voice, whether they use their hands or not. Those are all important elements to focus on while you're trying to think of questions and listen to their answers. And sometimes when we're listening to somebody talk, we're too busy thinking about what we're going to say next. We forget to listen to what they have to say. And then that's where that second interviewer, that observer comes in that can focus on those things and give feedback.
So it's kind of like a filter. That second person kind of filters some of the, hey, maybe I noticed this or things
Absolutely.
like that.
They're there to be an additional support, to be a filter. And like we all have strengths, we all have weaknesses. If we both interviewed the same person separately, we're going to get different responses. One of us is going to get them to open up more than the other one. But if one of us is watching the same interview, we're going to get a more collective response from that.
And I tell you what, I'm not a police officer, but I tell you, some of the stuff I might use to start interviewing people during the podcast. So you're teaching me things that even I need to know, even as a podcaster. So thank you for that. That is great. I do want to dig into your criminal justice services and counseling work that you've done. Maybe I'm not understanding what criminal justice it really is. So you've been with criminal justice services since 2012. You said your father owned it, and now you own it. What does CJS do, and what is your role there today?
So CJS, or Criminal Justice Services, was started by my dad and the late Joe Crump, who passed away. They had started back in like 2005. Pretrial services, they did like anger management classes, victim impact driving classes, stuff like that. They were teamed up with the state top office doing ignition interlock. We did batter's intervention, things of that nature, private probation, which is a misdemeanor probation for the most part. I started teaching in 2012, I believe, there part-time. I was still working in the sheriff's office. I started doing some drug and alcohol education, anger management, kind of assisting with just updating course material and stuff that's needed. I guess it was the end of 2021, January 2022, my wife and I bought the business. I was looking to get out of a federal position. That's when, a lot of stuff was going on. And I was just looking for a state position or something, and something that would bring me back closer to home. My dad called me up. He said, "I'm selling the business. You can have it or not." I said, "I'll take it."
There we go. It's kind of
That was kind of a done deal.
an open door for you there.
So I moved back home, and we started taking over and really focused on wanting to expand what services we offer. It was already doing pretrial services and probation and electronic monitoring, alcohol monitoring, GPS tracking, stuff like that. Some of the classes, we took that foundation, we added a second office here in Washington County. We added some of our classes. We have the batter's intervention program. We really focused on moral recognition therapy, or MRT, opening that up, transferring our anger management and stuff like that over to their process of doing things, which is all cognitive behavioral. And we wanted to look at who can we hire in our office that has the ability and the experience and the history that can connect. If somebody comes to me and they're like, "Hey, I'm struggling, I need to get into treatment," I'm gonna say, "Awesome, go to treatment."
Yeah.
They say, "Where do I go?" And I'm like, "Google, It's not my
Yeah.
forte, right? I have staff who's like, oh, hey, this place takes kids. This place takes this type of insurance. This place will allow you to have your dog. And I have staff that can do that because they talk to those people. They built those relationships. And being in a position, being in a business isn't about knowing everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's about having the people that can.
It's building that root, that tree that expands out.
Yes.
Right? Gotcha.
And we have had people from other police officers to prison guards to counselors to various different walks of life. People with I had one person for a while who was on probation for crimes committed several years ago, and being able to work with them and help them see a different side as well, open up their perspective, it truly makes a difference, and they can connect with an understanding to certain people that I just don't have and can't do. As a police officer for so long, a lot of people that I have now as clients are people that I arrested back in the day.
Oh, wow.
And so far, at least for the most part, they've all been very respectful. They've all been very polite. They've stopped and asked for food or rides or whatever. Haven't had any issues with them. But we currently serve, I want to say, approximately 14 counties.
Wow.
So we do go into the court system, some go in the courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
If we're subpoenaed, we'll go in and testify as well. But we also work with our 24th Circuit, drug court, treatment court, family court, juvenile court, and then GPS monitoring for adult and juvenile offenders throughout the 24th Circuit.
Yeah.
You do those.
Now, the 24th Circuit, is that down in Iron County?
No, that's 42nd.
42nd.
So
Okay.
24th would be St. Francis, St. John, Madison, and Washington.
Okay.
Now we do a lot of stuff in the 42nd Circuit, but not with their treatment.
So one of our previous guests, Judge Adam Randazzo.
I know him very well.
Gotcha.
Great guy. So.
Gotcha. So I'm linking all kinds of friends here. Thank you for explaining that to me. I was really curious as to what you guys did, because I've never been arrested. I've never been in trouble, so that's not really a resource I'm always looking to use. But that was really neat to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and we've done a lot with expansion of our victim notification technology, which is Scram Ally that we use currently. And I've got to travel to a couple different conferences, speak on victim notification technology.
Mm-hmm.
We have an app that if somebody has one of our GPS devices, the victim can get an app that they download. It links to that GPS. And if that offender's anywhere in their vicinity, they get an alert. If their battery goes dead, they get an alert. They go by their house when they're not there, they're going to get an alert.
Wow.
If they tamper with it, break it off, cut it off, they're getting an alert. So it keeps them informed of what's going on. However, technology is technology. Technology does fail and it's not perfect. And it is only as good as the people monitoring it.
Mm-hmm.
We take a lot of effort and a lot of pride in communication with the victims. I think it's very important when we do see something. Hey, shoot them a text even that, hey, I see that you're in court. Let us know if you need anything. Just letting them know, hey, somebody's watching my back. And it helps them to live their life without being in constant fear. And I think that is currently with CGS, I'd say probably one of the most rewarding aspects of the job is working with the victims and just listening to them talk about how it was nice to have somebody watching over their shoulder.
And it doesn't tie up 911 services or the police departments or things
Exactly.
like that.
And what we'll do with me being in law enforcement, a lot of times, I will tell them to call me first. And then if it is an emergency, obviously they need to call 911. But it's like, hey, if you're just concerned about it, call me.
Mm-hmm.
If I see the need, I will call 911 then on their behalf. And there's been several times when my wife or one is on the phone with the victim, the other one's calling the cops.
Yeah.
And, we'll kind of co-work that. So
to say you have a good rapport with the local sheriff's departments and police departments is probably an understatement, huh?
I would like to think that we do.
That's good.
Of course, some are always changing people.
Yeah.
Constantly getting to know new.
Oh, yeah. That's the revolving door in the first responder world for sure.
Yes, it is.
So you previously worked as a substance abuse counselor, RACS2. I just screwed that completely up. You, as a former abuse counselor, RASAC2, but today you focus on pastoral counseling. What led you into that spiritual side of helping others, and how did your earlier counseling experience shape the way you serve people now?
So, RASAC, which is a recognized associate substance abuse counselor, they've renamed it now, but that's what it was at the time. So, to put it short, when I sank kind of into a down spell of mine, I found myself crawling inside a bottle, and I lived there for a while. Drinking became more than just a pastime; it became a lifestyle with short moments of sobriety that kept getting shorter and shorter. Having recognized the damage that alcohol had, not just on me physically and me mentally, but also my family and my work, etc. I didn't want to see other people make the same mistake. I got into substance abuse counseling to work with veterans, to work with first responders, to kind of show them that there's a different avenue than sinking into the bottle, which I learned the hard way. I learned how to deal with stress. I learned to deal with trauma the way I saw a lot of my seniors deal with it, and probably a lot of the way that you see your seniors deal with it, which is through heavy drinking.
A lot.
And unfortunately, in the realm of first responders and veterans, we see a major, huge divorce rate. And a lot of that is because we drive the wedges in our own relationships.
Absolutely.
We are self-destructive.
Yeah, couldn't agree with that more.
We do and say things that are not healthy in a relationship. And when we, have a bad day and you get home and the partner's like, hey, what's going on? And like, nothing. Well, they can tell something's wrong.
Yeah.
So then they're like, well, tell me what happened. Nothing. I'm fine. You hear the words "I'm fine" from a first responder or veteran, you know they're not fine.
Yeah.
And what happens is it causes this communication barrier. And many times the other person in the relationship starts questioning, well, if they won't tell me what's wrong, maybe I'm what's wrong. And they're blaming themselves for something that had nothing to do with them. Or if they're not talking to me, who are they talking to?
That, and seeing that right there, that's a big one.
Big one, right?
That is a really big one.
Most cases in veterans first responder world, most cases of infidelity do not start with any type of physical attraction. It starts with an emotional attraction. Somebody that will just understand.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody to just listen. And then it builds. And it gets a lot of people in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, very quickly.
Both in divorces and legal battles, custody battles, but also in the criminal world with decisions they make. So it's definitely something that if you can avoid, you want to avoid. And the simple way to do that is communication. Communication is key in your relationship. So when it comes down to, the counseling side of it and the pastoral side of it, it really just boils down to being available. The most important person at any given point in time is the person sitting in front of you. And too many people find the person sitting next to them or in front of them, well, they're here, so these other people are important.
Yeah.
No, most important person is the person you're talking to. One of the most, I'll ask you this, what is the most valuable currency in existence?
I would assume the U.S. dollar.
You would assume.
I would assume.
It is time.
That
because if I give you $5, I can earn another $5.
Mm-hmm.
If I give you 5 minutes, I will never earn 5 minutes back.
Right now, you're looking at about 53 minutes. So
see, there you go. When you are willing to give your time up for somebody,
mm-hmm.
that's time that you are sacrificing. This time you'll never get back. And you have to be careful on who you're willing to sacrifice your time for, but also look at who's willing to sacrifice their time for me.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not willing to sacrifice their time for me, then why would I be willing to sacrifice my time for them?
It's funny you say that. I myself have struggled that a lot. I've been known to put more into the cup than what has been put into my cup by many people. And in the last year and a half, I've really learned that maybe it's time to just kind of cut a little bit of that out and focus more on myself, my marriage, and things of that sort. So
I have an analogy that I often use, but it is, I'll say, more visual usually, so we'll talk it through. But if I gave you half a bottle of water, that's not heavy, right?
No.
19.6 ounces, you talk about half of that, 8 ounces of water roughly. It's not heavy, it's not a lot. But if I asked you to hold that out in front of you with a straight arm, what would happen over time?
It would begin to feel heavy.
It would begin to feel heavy. I would do this in some of my drama classes and that I taught at Fort Leonard Wood. And even now, even in anger management and criminal thinking, I talk about this. If you're holding that bottle out, what happens as I continue to talk? It gets heavy. You start hurting. You start focusing on your arm and not about what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Your attention changes. Same thing when we carry stress and trauma with us. When it comes to stress, there are things you can do. Go on walks, go to the gym, take bubble baths, or you listen to music, watch movies. There's all kinds of things that you can do for stress management. When you talk to a first responder, they have at least 110 things they can do to manage their stress, but they never take the time dedicated to do those things.
I couldn't agree more with that.
Trauma, on the other hand, requires a more dedicated professional assistance because you can't just overcome, you can't walk away trauma. And if you're not careful, it will eat at you. That's where that's where the pastoral counseling comes in. Talking to people about situations and taking a biblical approach to help them recover from those situations. And I primarily work then, obviously, within my own congregation and stuff, but I'm not going to turn down any first responder veteran that wants to talk.
Absolutely. Well, that is, again, thank you for something else you offer. You're just a man of many hats, for sure.
Unfortunately, people like you mentioned, your bottle gets heavy, but if I'm a friend of yours, and I know we just met today, but I have a heavy bottle and I'm struggling. What do you want to do? You want to hold it up.
Yeah, help you out.
And the problem is you have your buddy over here that you're holding up theirs, and somebody over here you're holding up theirs. You're holding up everybody's bottles instead of teaching them to pour it out. We teach people to empty the bottle. They carry a bigger bottle through coping mechanisms. Then their bottle is never getting full. When that bottle overfills and that starts overflowing out of the cap, that's when the crisis occurs. That's when your coping mechanisms are no longer enough to deal with what you're dealing with. So let's carry a bigger bottle and let's empty the water.
Wow, that
deal with a lot more.
That is awesome, man. That is a very good analogy. That's wow. Kudos to you for that one. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this episode after we do this. I'm pretty sure I have days that I need to learn that. So you're also a certified morale recognition. I can't pronounce words today. Therapy facilitator. I'll let you pronounce it correctly.
It's kind of a tricky word. It's more recognition.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
And it is a cognitive behavioral approach to substance abuse counseling. It's a 12-step program. Students get a workbook, and then they work through their own reading and their own experiences. This format we do through CCI, or Correctional Counseling Institute, and our anger management or codependency, criminal thinking. Got a couple others on that. Brain freeze on a few of them, but all those are this style of this format of program. And since I've been doing anger management on and off since 2012, I have seen and used many different programs. If I just give you a lecture, you're not going to pay attention. I really struggle with PowerPoint lecture-based formats. This is a group discussion, and I give input. I give, talking about the midbrain and prefrontal cortex and stuff. We'll talk about the brain. We'll talk about the body, but most of it is them coming to their own awareness of their own triggers, their own situations, and how they can deal with it on their own. A lot of it they come up with themselves, and all I do is help facilitate what I say is one of the most important things when it comes to management of anger and criminal thinking: perception.
Yeah,
If you change the perception, you change your response.
that's a very simple analogy to remember.
It is. And if you think of you're at a stoplight, there's a car in front of you, and the light changes. I use this analogy quite a bit. The light changes red, it changes green, and the car in front of you doesn't move right away. Instantly, you get mad about it. You get frustrated, and you may start yelling at the person, or they won't get off their phone. They're just playing around. They're talking to their friend. They're TikToking or whatever.
Yeah.
You get upset about it. What if that person just got a phone call that their mother had a stroke and passed away?
Oh, wow.
You don't know. You don't know what's going on.
That's true.
But by being able to come up with that perception and say, what if, it changes your response. Now you're not acting out of your emotional part of the brain, but of the rational part of the brain. Hey, maybe this is going on. Maybe they need help. Maybe they're having a stroke. Maybe they need medical attention. It doesn't matter what your perception is, because your perception is controlling your emotion.
Wow.
So if you change your perception, you change your response.
That's incredible, man. I myself, on the way over here, the 8 Highway project, we got it going over here on 8 Highway, the bridge, that'll be done in 2030. There was a car sitting at that light, and I done exactly that. I was like, what are you doing? Come on, let's go. This light takes forever. And I never thought about that. That is a very good analogy, man.
I love that analogy, because the one thing that frustrates us all is when somebody doesn't move at the light.
Yeah.
And the immediate thing that we go to is they're not paying attention, and not there could be something wrong.
Wow. That is definitely something I will keep in my mind from now on. That's great.
I had somebody in my class the other day that said, I gave that analogy, and they said, I never thought about that until last week. There was a car, I was having a medical issue, and this car kept riding my bumper.
Yeah.
And I was having a problem. I couldn't hardly breathe. And I got thinking, well, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I said, I will never be upset when, again, when somebody's driving too slow or something, because it happened to me.
Well,
they could have something going on.
I think that makes 2 of us in 2 weeks there, my friend. I truly believe I will reconsider when I feel like I want to get flustered with a car in front of me. Wow, that was a little deep, very touching. I'm really sad Lockie couldn't be here with us. She would really enjoy this. You volunteer, we talked about this, but you volunteer with the Cold Case Foundation. How did you get involved with that work? You said you're kind of new to it, correct?
Yeah, so I'm a new volunteer with the Cold Case Foundation. Excellent organization. And what they do is when people submit maybe some cold case type incidents, they have investigators all across the U.S. and different places and different areas of specialty. And mine is primarily looking or listening to interview interrogations.
Yeah.
And looking for or listening to changes, voice changes or whatever terminology. And I haven't really utilized by them yet, because I am pretty new at it, but I was at the police and psychology, police and criminal, can't even talk today. I was at the Society for Police and Criminal Psychology Conference.
That's a lot of words.
That's a lot of words. SPCP. I was at one of the conferences a couple years ago, and I guess about a year and a half ago, and got talking with a couple of the people they had there, a couple of their interns. And I was like, this sounds like something very interesting, something that I'll apply for. They'll probably never call me, and they did. It took a while, but they called me up and ended up doing a interview with them over the phone, over Zoom with several of them, and got on board shortly after. So I haven't, again, done much with them yet. Hopefully I'll have an update for you before too long. But so far, I mean, I really like what the organization as a whole does, what they stand for, and what their attempt to do is. And it's all volunteer based. So people submit these cold cases, and they just reach out and see who's, maybe in certain specialties, and they try to solve these cold cases.
Wow, That's interesting. It's funny you say that, and I don't know if they'll ever work on this one or if this is something they'll be interested in. One that I've always found interesting right here in Washington County was the Michael Pulley case.
Yep.
And his mother Rita. With him being, his conviction being turned over, him being released.
I believe there's another organization currently working on that one, but I wouldn't say that they would.
Gotcha.
So I can't speak for them.
Well, that would be really neat if they ever, if it ever goes cold again, they decide to check that out. But yeah, so you have a lot of knowledge, a bunch of great analogies. Your leadership, professional associations, community roles, I want to talk about those a little bit. So you're a member of several major organizations, ICISF, ILEETA, Academy of Criminal Justice Sciences, DAV, BFW, and many more. What do these memberships mean to you?
So obviously, being a part of several memberships comes with pros and cons.
Yeah.
Con, obviously, the financial burden of being a part of all of them.
Oh, I'm sure.
However, for me personally, it's knowing that in some way, maybe I'm contributing to making a difference. I don't invest my time, I don't invest my money into any organizations I don't think are upholding their end of the bargain. If I don't think somebody's doing their end of the bargain, I'm not financially supporting them.
Well, that makes me feel a little bit better. Since Checkpoint Coffee and Cantee's a sponsor for us here, I can't talk today either, man.
It happens. I want to make a difference in several different areas. Obviously, ICISF is the International Critical Incident Stress Foundation, Critical Incident Peer Support, which I do. I'm a strong believer in their mission and their goals, what they do. I've gone to several of their conferences. I lead as a training Academy of Criminal Justice Services Sciences. That is law enforcement training. So with any of those, Society for Police Criminal Psychology, VFW, DAV, any of those, and there's others as well, what they do is, aside from being able to provide some type of financial support to organizations that I believe in, there's an element of networking that also comes with those, and an element of education. Even going through my school, I've been able to reach back to certain stuff that's been published by those agencies and use that for schoolwork. Like, hey, this is right up my alley. This is what I'm looking at. Different aspects of that, but also the networking. I've met a lot of really incredible and very, very passionate people that I may not be able to help somebody in a certain realm, but I can get them somebody who can.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
That's fantastic, man. I would love to see your flying miles. I can only imagine how big those things are. That is just incredible. Kudos to you again. That's a lot of giving and learning. I can't imagine. This podcast is enough to drive me crazy. I can't imagine doing the things you do. So you've also served on the board of directors for the Great Minds Health Center since 2023. So you're still active on the board, correct?
Yes.
So how did that opportunity come together?
So after I moved back home from Fort Leonard Wood, my wife's friend, she's a liaison with treatment court from Great Minds Health Center. And we got to talking and kind of looking at a lot of things that our agency has in common with, Great Minds Health Center. Obviously, there's a lot of the medical and stuff like that, but a lot of our clients, we try to get into medical services because they don't have insurance. They don't have a doctor. They haven't had a dentist in 20 years or a doctor in 15 years, and they don't have a chiropractor, and they don't have a pharmacy. And trying to get them in touch with the right people that can give them the appropriate diagnosis they need, get them the medication they need, is very important.
Yeah.
Great Minds does that, as well as many other places. But I have found a great deal of heart and passion with Great Minds Health Center because of the heart and passion of the CEO and the COO. Again, if I didn't believe in what they stood for, I didn't believe what they were doing and the directions they had for Great Minds Health Center, I wouldn't be a part of it. I'm not going to devote my time and effort into something I don't believe in. And I have found that they have a great deal of passion to helping people. And when I was presented the opportunity, or hey, have you considered or looking for board members? Have you thought about it? I was like, well, kind of the same thing. I'll put in for it. I don't know if I'm the best suited person for it.
Yeah.
But we went to lunch with the CEO and COO, and they're like, we need people outside of just the medical realm, people with different perspectives, people that have the knowledge of standard operating procedures, SOPs. I've written a lot of them and reviewed a lot of them. And so like, we need that. I said, okay. And I accepted, they offered a position and I accepted it and been on with them since. And
What?
I tell you what, that is very, very rewarding. I'm also a client of Great Minds Health Center. I go there for many of my dental, medical, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And most of the staff don't know who we are. You know, they don't know who the board members are. So I'll go in and report back. It's like, hey, they're always friendly. They're always helpful. I've never had a bad experience with any of them. And I'm able to report back a lot of good positive things. Being that I work with treatment court and many of them also go for services there, I'm able to talk to them like, hey, what was this experience? What was this?
Yeah.
And if they did have a bad experience, being able to report that back and try to get things fixed, try to make sure that the place is running as smoothly as possible, not just for the patients, but also for the staff. If you don't enjoy where you're working,
It's not a good.
it's not a good environment to be in.
Yeah.
And people who enjoy what they do and feel appreciated for what they do are going to work that much harder for you.
Well, that's fantastic, man. My doctor's actually through Great Minds. I've always had a great experience with those ladies up there in the medical side of it. Great Minds also does, in conglomeration with Washington County Ambulance District, the Great Minds in conglomeration together. Again, can't talk today. They do the MIH program for mobile integrated healthcare. For those of you who don't know, if you live in Washington County, you can contact Great Minds. You can contact Washington County Ambulance District, and they can get you involved in that. They can come to your house and help service the elderly and check on them and stuff like that. So
Absolutely. And that is a program that not only has gained recognition in the state, but across the nation.
yeah,
It has really, really sparked a lot of interest. It's a great program.
yeah.
That if it was not for our CEO, Greg, now I'm having total brain freeze. Greg's name. But if it if it weren't for him and Angela Kearns doing everything they do, our finance department, I mean, our board in general just works so hard to make sure that those things go smoothly.
Yeah, absolutely. My wife actually works for the ambulance district, so I get to see it from that perspective. So it's really neat to be able to see both how both sides work together and can create the program for a very rural county. They've really put it on the map for this. I know they go to a ton of conferences and things like that. So it's a great program to be in. Really glad you're on the board. That's good to know. If I ever have that experience, I'll be sure to let you know.
Let me know.
So I do want to talk about your faith and ministry a little bit. Since 2024, you've served as an associate pastor of the Three Crosses Cowboy Church. What led you into ministry?
One answer, God.
There you go.
That's
a good one.
That's what led me. He's the one who led me into ministry. It was not me. I had zero desire to do anything in ministry. I went to church, and through some experiences, I started. We'll talk about in a minute. I increased my, faithfulness in attendance and stuff like that. I had no desire to do anything else. I was happy just being there.
Just going to church.
And I think it was a Thursday night. They asked me to come up and sing, and I completely butchered it. But I do also sing on the praise and worship. I do some backup vocal stuff, and I try my best not to take any lead because that's not my forte.
So I can't get you to sing a song while we're on here. Huh?
Probably not.
Well, darn, I was going to try.
But then I after doing that for a while, they asked me to be a member of the board. I was on the board with the church for a while, and then they presented the opportunity to be the associate pastor. And we're a small church,
Mm-hmm.
but I really had to spend some time in prayer about it because it was not something I was planning on.
Yeah.
I decided that, I talked to my wife, I talked to the pastor and some other family, and decided that was the path that I needed to go. I don't, as the associate pastor, I'll say, fill in some for, giving Sunday messages, the sermons, stuff like that. But my number one, I'll say, position as the associate pastor is being kind of a liaison, going to hospitals and doctors, that the pastor can't be at, having that secondary person that can do those things, answering questions and just talking to people. Pastoral counseling has been a big role. So I don't do primarily, it's not like, hey, twice a month you're preaching. I fill in as needed. I will do stuff. Just
kind of a jack of all trades.
Yeah, it's somewhat. I try to leave the majority of the preaching up to the preacher.
Well, there you go.
The pastor, Mike McGee, I mean, he was somebody, I can tell his story a little bit because I know he does. It's not a problem. But, I'm a cop. I've been a cop for 24 years. He was saved in prison.
Oh, wow.
And to have that together and being able to look at things prospectively, it really helps us. Areas that he may be his weakness might be my strength, and vice versa. So we work very, very well together, as well as with our Bible teacher that we have on Thursday nights. It's my stepdad, so we all seem to work really well together and support each other.
Well, that's fantastic, man. It's always good to coincide with people in your religion and things like that. So how do you balance your faith, your work in criminal justice, and your passion for serving others? Man, you do so much. I want to know how you just truly unwind and balance it all.
So what I'll say is, you don't.
Well, I've heard that before. Yeah.
There's no such thing as a perfect balance. And the idea of, separation of church and state, for example, that's to an extent, I'll say, a myth, right? You got to have a strong foundation. And the stronger foundation that you have in your spiritual guidance, in your faith, it alters the way we make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
How we make decisions alters ultimately how we balance things and what we take as priority. Unlike the belief of many, and it's not going to be the most popular response, but Christianity is not about rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah.
Not everybody that says they're Christians going to heaven. The Bible tells us that plain and clear. We're a church of blunt truth. And
nothing wrong with
some
that.
people don't like that. Some people love it. We just kind of say it as it is. And not everyone who claims that they're a Christian lives like a Christian. To be a Christian means to be Christ-like. We all fail. None of us are perfect. If we wait till we're perfect before we decide to go into a church, we're never going to go into a church because we're never going to be perfect. None of us are perfect. But the difference is some of us can find forgiveness in our imperfection. Many people who claim Christianity, many people who are Christians need a great awakening as well. Sometimes we have to fall in order to get up. Something that recently has been kind of a forethought of my mind, something I mentioned this at our Thanksgiving service. Some of our biggest blessings in life are disguised as our biggest barriers.
I've heard that before.
Yep. We focus so much on the bad that we sometimes fail to see the good that comes out of situations. We're blessed beyond belief in many situations. We just tend to focus on the negative of them.
We see that a lot in today, especially in today's modern world.
Yes.
Because that's all you see on the news. That's all you see on your phone. It's just all bad.
It is. And people often fall into a cognitive distortion, an error of thinking. And we see this not just with victims of crime. We see this with first responders. We see this with veterans. You become what you think you are. And if somebody's talking down to you constantly, oh, you're this, you're no good because of this, you're no good because of this, you start believing it and you start living it. It's an error of how we think. And all too often, the person that's telling you, you can't do this, you can't do this, you're no good because of this, is you.
Fair enough.
So we have to change perception.
I couldn't think of a better answer to give to that. I mean, that's a very good way to look at it.
It's unfortunate, but
Yeah, I mean,
it's the truth.
it is. And sometimes the blunt truth is really what just needs to be said, as much as some people don't like to hear it.
Unfortunately, many people don't want to hear it, but it is what it is. And I mean, I say things that people disagree with all the time, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
In today's society, many people have lost the ability to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And what happens is if I take the stack of papers and it has all my morals and all my beliefs and all my values, and I hold it so close tightly to my chest here, and you disagree with it, well, then you're disagreeing with me. You're disagreeing with who I am, my identity.
Yeah.
But if I set them here, there's still all my morals, all my beliefs, all my values, and you disagree with them. And they're laying out in front of me. Now you're disagreeing with them and you're not attacking me personally. When we can learn to set stuff aside and not take a personal offense or identity threat by everything everybody says, we get so far. It's okay. It's okay to disagree with people. Nothing happens.
Unfortunately, brother, we live in a world of hate.
Unfortunately.
As much as I hate to say that, I mean, we live in a world of hate.
And people have lost the ability to just show love.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes love looks like being harsh. Love can look like being offensive and being blunt. But if it's done out of love, there's a reason.
Well, and if Lockie was here, she would definitely agree with you on that. Lockie's a very blunt person, but Lockie means the best for everybody she meets.
Yep.
I can't brag on her enough. I'm very glad she's my co-host. And again, I'm really sad she couldn't be here because I feel like you two really would have bonded.
I will make fun of her later.
Oh, I'm sure. So we're sitting right here in Checkpoint Coffee and Canteen. You guys were one of my very first sponsors when I done my Joe Exotic episode, when I talked to him in prison. Turns out your wife actually went to school with my mom. I walked in here one day and she's like, "Hey, is your mom so-and-so?" And yeah, I know your mom and your dad. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Is that a bad thing or a good thing? So, you guys were one of my very first sponsors. I can't thank you enough for believing in my mission and Lockie's mission and what Midwest Mayhem stands for. You guys actually, yesterday, bought into our 2026 Voices of Valor Legacy sponsor. You are one of our top tier sponsors. And again, we just cannot thank you guys for supporting us enough. Checkpoint Coffee and Canteen and Midwest Mayhem stand side and side and coincide in our mission.
Yep.
We want to support first responders, we want to support veterans, and we want to make sure they're all taken care of, as you and I both are both. So I want to talk about Checkpoint Coffee and Canteen a little bit. So in 2025, you and your wife opened Checkpoint Coffee and Canteen here in Potosi. What inspired the idea for the coffee shop?
So a few years ago, I don't know why, I had an idea. Let's do a military-themed coffee shop. Let's get back to some of our local first responders and veterans. I don't know what it's going to look like, but let's do it. And she told me no. And probably once a month for the last few years, I was like, hey, what about? No. Hey, what about? No.
We see that a lot out of our lives.
Exactly. I'm the idealist. I'm the one that's like, let's do this, let's do this, and her job is to tell me no all the time. And occasionally I slide with her. And that's kind of how this came about. This was previously a restaurant. They had personal things go on, a house fire, and it just became too much for them, and they had to close up, unfortunately. But they offered, if we wanted to come in, the owner of the building let us take over the rent. They sold us their stuff to start the restaurant side. And I came in, I'm like, awesome. We got all this room for coffee stuff. My wife said, no, if we're going to do it, we got to have food. It'll never survive. We'll never get enough business as coffee to do what you want to do. So we got to do food too. I didn't want anything to do with food. I've never worked in the restaurant industry. She had. But I've never worked in the coffee industry either. But I love to drink coffee.
There you go. I'm pretty sure it's just a built-in trait for first responders and things of that sort.
So I was just like, hey, let's do this. And so we were actually on our way to Las Vegas to speak at a conference. We're on our way to the airport. And I was just joking around with myself, like, hey, that'd be a cool idea for a coffee shop. And she's like, well, actually, I'm like, oh, tell me more.
You have my interest now.
And that's when she said that they were going to sell, and if we wanted to buy in. And so we took over here, and of course it took us a while with me going to school and with our other jobs, and she works another job also up in DeSoto.
Oh, wow.
So we keep pretty steady, and with all that, finding the time to come in and do construction, do painting and plumbing and everything that needed done, and the cleaning and stripping of the floors. And I think we took over in February. We didn't open until July.
Wow.
It took us a while,
Yeah.
but that's all right. We wanted to do it right and get it opened up with not still trying to undergo certain things.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
So we are going to, hopefully in the near future, be making some positive changes, but
Look good.
it's going to give us a little more room, hopefully some more seating, and go from there. But yeah, it was just, I don't know why, an idea that popped in my head. Funny story about our logo being the turtle.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about
I
that.
figured you would. I saw it in your face.
Yeah.
So as you can see, he's holding a coffee cup that says Alpha.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that if we ever decided to do a different location, a second location, it would be Bravo.
Yeah,
Delta.
Delta, yeah.
And it would expand. And we may keep the turtle, we may do a different animal. I don't know what we're going to do with that as that goes. But he's obviously wearing a Army helmet with Staff Sergeant stripes for my service. But my original logo design, when this few years of her telling me no, I was working on the menu. I was working on a logo. I had stuff. Before it opened, I was meeting with Shane Porter. He's one of the assistant prosecutors over in St. Francis County. And I was talking with him. I'm like, hey, I opened a coffee shop in Farmington. Would you come? He goes, probably not. He goes, call Jack's across the street. So I know he loves turtles. I said, what if I had a turtle tank? He's like, ooh. I was like, nah, I don't know if health department. I'll make the logo a turtle. I already had a logo designed with a soldier standing there. Yeah, I redesigned it with the turtle.
Wow.
Because the more I thought about it, funny story making about the turtle, but when you look at the turtle, you think of veterans and first responders. That hard exterior shell, that protectiveness.
Yeah.
By having that vulnerable, soft inside that we often try to protect.
That's a turtle.
That's a turtle.
Wow, man. That's cool.
If you look on my shelf up here, and we have pictures online, I have a stuffed turtle.
Yeah.
That's Terry the turtle. And Terry traveled with me all over the world when I was teaching classes at Fort Leonard Wood. He was a mascot in my class. I bought him at a Goodwill on one of my trips, and I started making him a mascot in the class. And you couldn't talk unless you were holding Terry, or you come in and Terry's on your desk, you get the trash out that day or whatever. The groups and classes were getting their pictures with Terry in the group photo at the end of the class. Terry became a staple of what we were doing at Fort Leonard Wood and teaching those different classes. He was my mascot that I carried with me for and all three kind of came together.
That is neat, man. I was trying to figure out how to ask that question. I'm glad you brought that up. That you see a turtle and a coffee shop logo, and you're like, what in the heck is going on here? I won't lie. When I first seen it, I'm like, now wait a second, what is going on here? But that's really neat, man. I'm really glad that you have a story behind your logo. It's not just a drawn-up picture that you have no representation for. And actually, the Midwest Mayhem logo, there's a story behind that, but I can't say it on air, so I have to tell you that. I have to tell you that later. So, a portion of all proceeds helps support local veterans and first responders. Why was that a mission so important to you both? Obviously, because you're a first responder veteran.
Yeah, I think for me, it is the sole mission. We're willing to give back and do things to support the community through peer support, through pastoral counseling, working with first responders and dispatchers, and anything after any type of critical incidents. Willing to sit down and talk with them and talk them through it. But we wanted to be able to provide more, especially in such a rural area.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we support, of course, Old Man River. We have a couple of his signs up here. He was a former Marine.
Mm-hmm.
Great dude. he was a Marine, so I talk slow, but sorry, Jim. He's a great guy, and he has a place just south of Potosi called Old Man River, and it is a nature retreat for veterans. And he's got camping and fishing and different things. And I just can't say enough good about this guy and the mission that he has as well, which is to support our local veterans.
Yeah.
And so one of our support obviously is to him. The local VFW, my VFW membership for the time being is in St. Francis County,
Yeah.
in the city of Deloge. I may end up transferring that over here as well, but be able to provide some help for them financially. We haven't been able to do a whole lot yet, but a little bit with our chocolate walk, Christmas walk. 100% of all the patches and all the ornaments that we have for sale here on those days went to the VFW or are going to the VFW as we get that prepared. And I think it's really important to support local community and local businesses, local organizations, these small business type things. And anything from Midwest Mayhem podcast to Old Man River to the VFW or to Checkpoint. We have a very similar goal and a very similar mission, but we're coming at it from different ways. And all that does is just add slices to the pie.
For sure.
And when we complete that pie, we'll have this.
Yeah.
It'll be delicious.
There we go. Well, that's neat. Your wife and I have talked quite a bit. She primarily, again, today is the first day I've met you. I've talked to you a little bit before now. But you guys have really supported my mission. I'm very glad to support yours. I recommend everybody go check out Checkpoint Coffee and Canteen. Again, I'm sitting in this building, and there are so many neat things. I don't think I'll see them all before I leave, so I'll have to come back in and, of course, get me a good cup of coffee or some good food. So how has the community responded since you've opened the doors here? And I will preface this with you sitting right across the street from Midwest Press, who's another Potosi icon, who was also a sponsor for Midwest Mayhem. You guys seem to have a pretty good working relationship.
Absolutely. They're great people. I had went over there several times before we opened up here, and different niches.
Yeah.
They focus on a lot of the sports, health, athletic, the gym, whereas we have fried food. But and other foods as well. But we both provide some of the same services, but what we're doing with that and the way we're supporting our community is done in different ways, and we support them 100%. Andrew's Cafe,
family restaurant, yeah.
Family restaurant up there. Great people. We go in there and eat. They come in here and eat. We try to do what we can to support them as well. Anything that's going to build on the small business side of things, we need in this community.
For sure.
I'm not from Potosi. I'm from Farmington. My wife is from Potosi.
Yeah.
And for several years we've lived in Middle Point or in Caledonia, different areas. But we've lived over in Washington County for several years now. And I think it's very important to get our community back. And the more we get our community active, and the more we get them working, the more we get them doing stuff, the less we see them doing other stuff.
Yeah.
And if we can even help one person stay out of trouble.
I am glad. I'm sure you've heard us say that on other episodes, but that is Lockie's favorite saying. And since she's not here, I'll say it for her. If we can just help one person make a difference, we're doing something right.
Absolutely. And the community here has been absolutely outstanding, amazing. Even people that haven't been here that I've talked to, people who do come in on a regular basis. If it were not for the community and the support that we have from the community, we wouldn't exist. I mean, we're not going to have a coffee shop if you don't have customers.
Same thing.
For the food is restaurant, if you don't have customers, you're not going to have a podcast. Nobody listens.
Absolutely.
Because you're devoting your time and your effort, your energy into something that you believe in. It doesn't mean everybody else is going to believe in it. We opened in July of this year. We hope that this still continues to grow and go well. We don't know, because it doesn't rely on us it relies on the community.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we're doing our part and we're supporting what we say we'll support, and we're doing our end, we pray that there's going to be continued growth. But it ultimately depends on and strides on the community. And we've seen people from other cities, other counties, other states that have come in, and even had one from out of the country that was in visiting, and family brought them in, and that's what we love to see.
Yeah.
99% of my job here is just talking to people.
Bro, you've sat here with me for about an hour and a half now, and you're pretty good at talking. So
I'm not above pulling the chair up and just sitting down with strangers I don't know and talking to them about what we're doing, or the importance of certain things, or when they go to pray with me, I'll have a prayer with them, or whatever the circumstance. I'll talk to them about the food or whatever. A big part of what I do is just communicate with it. If somebody doesn't want to be bothered, I'm not going to bother.
Absolutely.
Most of the time. But I if I'm here, I'm probably talking to somebody.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's great. That's good hospitality and a good business owner. So for the people who don't know where Checkpoint Coffee and Canteen is, or how to get a hold of you, can you give us your address and stuff like that? Because I can't remember it off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's 205 East High Street. We're right here on the main drag of High Street between Melton's and East Missouri Actions Agency, kind of across from Midwest Press. And we're closed Sunday, Monday right now. We're open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays, we open at 6 a.m. We don't close till 8 p.m.
Oh, wow.
Now, some holidays, of course,
will vary, yeah.
The one, I believe in family, and what I don't want to do is have my people here working while I'm visiting family.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to be here. Then
they don't need to be.
They don't need to be here either. So.
Absolutely, man. That's great. You can find them on Facebook. You can go to our Facebook page, Midwest Mayhem Podcast, and you can see Checkpoint Coffee and Canteen. We share a lot of their stuff. We have a really good relationship with these guys, and again, I cannot thank you guys enough for what you do for us. And I hope to help continue to grow. I hope we continue our bond with you guys being a sponsor here on Midwest Mayhem. So I do want to talk about some challenges, growth, and personal strength. Our mental health section, Maki's a lot better at that than I am. She's just a really touchful person with that. So I do want to go through a couple of these things. Looking back on everything, law enforcement, military service, ministry, counseling, and a business ownership, what moment stands out as your proudest moment?
If I had to come up with one thing, it would have to be when veterans or first responders have reached out and said that something that I taught them, something from my lessons or discussions that we had, changed the way they did things, changed the way they talked to victims, changed the way that they communicated with people, and positively affected someone's life, or how it stopped themselves from taking their own. And that, to me, has been what has made a lot of what I do worth it. Again, I've never been perfect. I wasn't a great patrolman. I did my job, but there's always room for improvement.
Absolutely.
I wasn't the best at it. I haven't been the best at anything I've done, but I've tried hard to correct mistakes. And if I can teach other people from lessons I've learned, then it's worth it, even if you only change one. And I've had a few people reach out and tell me that right before, our encounter in our class, that they were thinking about suicide, or they were doing things a certain way. And we've had soldiers get up in the middle of class and run and call their kids and tell them that they didn't feel like they were doing enough. And it's those moments that make everything that I've done in the past and continue to work on and the effort we put forth worth it. It's to see change.
That's fantastic, man. Again, kudos to you. I'm sure you're probably tired of hearing me say that, man, but I cannot thank you enough for everything you've done here. When I sat down to write the script, I was in awe. It was definitely, I knew it was going to be a little bit of a challenge, and I'm glad we were able to sit here and talk. What advice would you give to young men and women entering law enforcement or the military today?
Be prepared. That's the number one thing, is to be prepared. there's a lot of great things about law enforcement, about the military, but you have to protect yourself first. When you think of a vehicle, you occasionally have to go get an oil change.
Mm-hmm.
What's the point of an oil change?
To service and keep your engine running clean and
Keep it running clean.
yeah.
Keep it running smooth. If you don't do an oil change, you end up blowing head gaskets and you have a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to wait till then to go get an oil change?
No.
Talking to somebody, talking to a counselor, a therapist, or a friend, a coworker is no different. You have to keep your brain running smooth. You got to do those oil changes, not because you have a problem, but to keep you from developing a problem. And what happens is when you bottle that up, you're not getting an oil change. Once you've done something you shouldn't do, once you've, had those suicidal ideations and followed through with them, or, once you've snapped at your partner, or whatever the circumstance may be, it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Once you develop mental health trauma and issues, it's not a simple fix that you're going to fix with just talking to somebody quickly. A lot of our problems can be mitigated by communication. And we have this, there's this theory, I'll say, in first responder world, never take your work home.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first things I heard in the academy, never take your work home. Well, that's fine and dandy. What does that mean? The meaning behind it is don't take your files, your casework home and work on them at the table. When your kids are there, you should be playing with your kids.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you won't take aspects of the work home. And what happens is sometimes some people can shut it off, some can't. And those who can't just shut it off go home, and then I can't take work home. I can't take work home. I can't take work home. And now they're just focused on work, and they're becoming irritated, or they isolate themselves from their family, again, driving those wedges in their own relationships. All because they had a misperception of what don't take your work home means. Doesn't mean you won't take it home. You're not going to go home and tell your partner all the gruesome stuff. But it's okay to tell them, hey, I had a bad day. I had a really bad call. I'm going to need a few minutes
To decompress.
And that right there can go so far
Mm-hmm.
with communication and saving a relationship. You got to do those oil changes. A low point I had in my life, I talked about earlier, I kind of sunk into a bottle, alcoholism, depression, anxiety, and my own suicidal ideations. It wasn't because I had a desire to die. Most people who think about suicide, it's not about any desire to end their life or to die. It's about ending a means to the physical and emotional pain they're experiencing. And that sometimes seems like the last resort. Back issues, leg issues, hand issues, head issues. I've had several head injuries, shoulder injuries, all of those compiled with officer-involved shootings. That particular one in 2012, guy lost his life. We took it. My partner was shot. He survived, but those things really start to wear on you.
Mm-hmm.
Officer downs, children that are abused, children that are killed, and all too often we blame ourselves for how the dominoes land.
Yeah.
And when we find ourselves in a situation where we put our effort, even if we give 120% of what we have into something, if it doesn't end the way that we think it should, we blame ourselves. And that's part of that cognitive distortion. I was blaming myself for a lot of stuff. May 13th, 2013, I would work a night shift. I came on duty. The old Office Max in Farmington?
Yeah.
I parked behind Office Max. I put my gun to my head. I was done. And this is a part of the story that many people have never heard until now. In a tear-soaked uniform, I prayed for some way out. And through a tear-soaked uniform and halfway through a trigger pull, I didn't hear an audible voice or anything. I felt the Holy Spirit's overwhelming push to take a drive. And that moment is when I started to change my life. I holstered my gun. I took a drive. End of story. Great ending, right?
Yeah.
Except that wasn't the end of the story. Within 3 minutes, I pulled up on a 14-year-old girl hit on Karst Boulevard by a car crossing the street. My supervisor pulled up, and while we were trying to save her life, waiting on the ambulance, she died.
Oh, wow, man.
Take somebody who's already at their lowest. Now you have that. It was a roller coaster of a fight. Going back to some of our biggest blessings are seen as our biggest barriers. It's about perspective. It took a 14-year-old girl dying in my arms that night for me to wake up and realize I was doing a lot of things wrong. I wasn't treating my wife right. I wasn't treating my kids right. I'm divorced from her and remarried now.
Yeah.
But I realized I was not living what I should have been living. And it took that incident. Everything I have, everything I've experienced, the good, the bad, everything I am, are blessings from God. And when we're able to have the right perspective about those, we're able to see the blessings in those barriers.
Well, man, I honestly don't have much of a response for that other than I'm glad you're still here. I'm sorry you had to experience that tragedy.
It is what it is. But if I can use that realization and that process to help other people, that's what's important. And that's why I disclosed it. In other words, I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
But it's about being able to be a support for other people experiencing similar issues.
And that's why we do what we do sitting right here. Exactly what you just told me. Because a lot of people may not have known that about you. And after this episode produces, they probably will. And that's okay. Because that, as you said, you found justification in it, and you know what your purpose is. You knew you had more purposes in here than you not being here with us anymore. And that's all that matters. Again, very glad you're still here with us. Thank you for that. It's a very touching personal detail. I'm really glad you shared that with me. So for all listeners who want to support the work that you're doing through criminal justice services, Checkpoint Coffee and Canteen, or your community roles that you do, how can they get involved?
So they can contact us at criminaljusticeservices@gmail.com, Checkpoint Coffee Canteen @gmail.com. Of course, supporting Old Man River and their local VFW, get involved with, supporting or joining their local VFW. And of course, listen to and support Midwest Mayhem. I think it's very important.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Midwest Mayhem really appreciate your support. And one of our favorite questions, and I'm sure you've heard in our other episodes, what does the word valor mean to you personally?
So valor to me is not just bravery seen in the moment. It is integrity under pressure. Most people think of valor as running into danger when everybody's running away, and that's certainly a part of it. It's an element of that, but it's much deeper. Valor to me is choosing what is right when the cost is personal and there's no applause, when there's no one there to give you the kudos and the pat on the back and all that. And sometimes at the sacrifice of yourself, of your time, your finances, whatever that personal sacrifice might be. It is standing firm when compromise is much easier. It's carrying the responsibility even when no one sees the weight. And that is something that first responders do a lot of. And it is acting with restraint when forced to be praised, and remaining faithful to duty long after the adrenaline fades off. True valor is not loud. It doesn't always look heroic. It sometimes looks like perseverance, restraint, accountability, and quiet sacrifice. True valor is less about a single courageous act, and to me, more of a lifelong posture. And some people may not have that their entire life, but it is something that can be instilled, something that can be developed, and something we can always at least strive for.
And that is a fantastic answer. That's one of my personal tops so far, but I do appreciate everybody's answers that have given us on other episodes. Everybody's opinions mean a whole lot to us. I can't thank all of you enough for coming on here and being courageous and sharing your stories. But that was a very good answer as to what Valor is to you personally. So let's have a little bit of fun. Let's do a rapid fire round real quick and get this thing start to wrap up. How about that?
All right.
So this is kind of a dumb question, but coffee or energy drink?
Both, depending on my mood, either just a black coffee or like one of our Lotus energy drinks, which is caffeine from the green coffee bean. I love the Agent Orange. It's an orange tang that then supports or at least helps to spark recognition, awareness of those still struggling with Agent Orange. I have some family and friends that deal with that, and I think it's very important. So that's why we named it after them. But I drink a couple of those a day sometime, as well as black coffee. It just depends on my mood at the moment.
Fantastic. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Night owl.
Night owl. Favorite go-to snack at the office?
Donuts when the wife is not around. Wraps or salads when she is.
Perfect. Is it because you have a little bit of the cop background?
Maybe something to do with a little bit of the cop background. That is why. So on our burgers, we have our fireman special, which is a 10-ounce burger, Tabasco infused bacon, mayo, pickle, pepper, jack cheese. And then we have a blue line special for the cops, and it is a bacon donut burger.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to come in and try one of them sometime. So country, rock, or worship music on the drive?
Country gospel tends to be a lot of what I listen to. Kevin Kapler, big fan of his, good friend of mine. He's a chaplain with so many different agencies and police departments, ambulance district, and highway patrol, and park rangers, and he just does so much to give back and help with. I love the guy to death, and I have him pulled up in my truck listening to today. So.
Well, funny you say that. We'll be talking about him here in just a few minutes. So if you weren't in criminal justice or ministry, what career would you want to try?
I don't know.
You don't?
I honestly don't know. I've thought about that many times, and it kind of goes back to identity.
Mm-hmm.
The fireman, police officer, your badge is taken away.
Yeah.
You feel lost.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because your identity is what you do, and who you, less about who you are, more about what you do. And we see this a lot with first responders and veterans who are struggling to find their identity. Soldiers come home from war, and they've been overseas. They come home, and their spouse is taking care of the trash, taking care of the kids, taking care of the homework, taking care of the bills. It's like, oh, you relax.
Yeah,
I got this. Well, what happens is that person starts feeling like they're not providing enough for their own family. They don't see their worth. They don't see their identity. I don't belong here. They end up leaving. They end up in suicidal ideation, something like that. Identity is really, really important. Unfortunately for me, my identity revolved around what I did and continues to. So I know something personal that I have to work through, but I can't see myself doing anything else.
Well, funny you say that. Now you know why I'm a podcaster, because I was a fireman for 10 years. I left that job, didn't know what to do, felt very empty, and I said, you know what, let's do a podcast, and here we are. So you find something to do eventually.
Absolutely.
So dog or cat person?
Dog, if they're a big dog and not a little yappy dog.
You would definitely love my dogs. You can watch them anytime you want. They're kind of a pain sometimes. Hidden talent most people don't know you have.
Leatherwork. I enjoy making like keychains and knives. It's more of a hobby than any type of skill, but I enjoy making knife sheaths and different trinkets and little things, just tinker around, and it's a good stress reliever.
I can imagine. I tell you what, you ever get bored, and firemen are always looking for radio straps. You check into that, stamping and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
Nap, of course.
Who doesn't love a good nap? One word that describes your view of service?
Stewardship.
Stewardship. That's a good one.
I think it's important for anybody to be able to, especially in leadership roles, carry a larger servant's towel, carry a bigger servant's towel. The more that you take care of your people, the more they do for you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's a great one. First thing you do every morning?
Pray.
That's a good one. And prayer is a big thing to you. We know you're a Christian, and you like to lead the faith of man, and and everything like that. So Adam, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us here today, your dedication, your service, and law enforcement in the military and counseling and ministry, and even through your coffee shop. It represents everything Voices of Valor is all about. And I cannot thank you enough for everything you've done for myself, for our service, for first responders, veterans, everything. Glad you're still here with us. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I do have one final question for you. If you could leave our listeners with one message, something you've learned from a lifetime of service, what would it be?
To know that if somebody else is struggling, don't hesitate to reach for that phone and call them. Reach out to them. All too often, we know somebody's struggling. We don't want to have that uncomfortable conversation. Reach out to somebody. You can't take care of others though, unless you take care of yourself first. When you go on an airplane, that's one of the first things they tell you. If the gas or the oxygen mask come down, put yours on before you try to assist anybody else. You can't take care of others if you don't take care of yourself. So don't hesitate. Reach out to somebody somebody you trust, somebody that you feel comfortable to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have anyone, reach out to me. Reach out to Midwest Mayhem. Reach out to Old Man River. I know any of us are willing to listen, to talk. And there are other people out there who have experienced similar things. And even if the triggering mechanism to whatever's bothering people is different,
Mm-hmm.
the effects are often the same. So trauma is trauma, regardless of what caused it. You may not know what it's like to go through whatever somebody else is going through,
Mm-hmm.
but I can at least understand the effects of it. And it is so important to reach out when we need help and to reach out to others when we know they need help.
That's fantastic, man. I can't thank you enough for everything you've shared with us here tonight. Do you have anything you'd like to say to wrap this thing out? Or
I just really appreciate the opportunity. Again, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. I've never showed myself or tried to present myself as somebody being perfect. I've made a lot of mistakes, and if I can use those to help other people who have been in similar situations, to help people recover from certain ideations or from substance abuse, I'm going to do everything I can to help.
well, I appreciate that, man, and I'm so glad you're a very big asset to our community. You're definitely one of a kind. I haven't met too many people like you, and I really appreciate everything you do.
And that's going to wrap up the 2025 season here on Midwest Mayhem. Again, that was Adam Wells, Checkpoint Coffee and Canteen. He is guest number 6, episode 14 of Midwest Mayhem. And yes, we know that episode 15 dropped before 14 due to some scheduling conflict. But hey, that's part of the mayhem. It's in the name. With that, season 1 of Midwest Mayhem is officially coming to a close. I want to say thank you to every one of you, and just take a moment and tell you how much we appreciate all of our listeners, our supporters, our sponsors, the first responders, veterans, and community heroes that have come on here and told their stories. You've made this first season something special. Your stories, your messages, your feedback, it all helped us grow into what the show is today, and I cannot thank all of you enough. Lockie and I are so appreciative. I am very appreciative of Lockie herself. She's been a great co-host, working through some tough things in her life, as you've heard her talk about, helped me work through some tough stuff. So she's a great friend, great co-host, and I can't wait to kick off season 2 with her. We'll be taking a short break over the holiday season, but we want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, a very Happy New Year, and please celebrate responsibly. Don't drink and drive, and make good decisions. Take care of yourself, take care of each other. And don't forget, on March 28th, 2026, we'll be partnering with the Leadwood Fire Protection District for their very first free first responder mental health seminar. It is a very important day of awareness, support, and strengthening our community and backing our first responders. So if you're a first responder, come on out, check out the seminar. It's going to be a great time at West County Middle School. It's from 11 to 3. If you want more info, you can go to our website. You can check it out on our Facebook page. The flyer is on there. Don't forget, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Podcastle, or on our website at www.midwestmayhempodcast.com. You can find our advertising links if you'd like to become a sponsor. You can find our episodes. You can sign up to be on Voices of Valor. So go on there, check it out. It's a good site. We put some work into it, and it's continuing to grow. You can even get coloring sheets, so make sure you check that out. So from all of us here at Midwest Mayhem, my wife, myself, Lockie, I want to say thank you again to every single one of you for a great first season. Take care, stay safe, have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you guys on January 9th.
Thank you for listening to the Midwest Mayhem Podcast. This is where small towns have loud stories and where first responders share their voices, their truth, and their courage. If you've got a story you want to tell or you want to be part of our Voices of Valor series, head over to MidwestMayhemPodcast.com and click the Voices of Valor tab to sign up. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and of course, right on our website. Season 2 kicks off January 9th, 2026, and we truly can't say thank you enough for all of you listening and supporting our mission. Until next time, take care of yourself, look out for one another, and remember, here at Midwest Mayhem, we turn courage into conversation.